Hello, welcome to Post Colonial Space. I'm Masood Raja, and today I'll briefly talk about three main concepts of Paulo Freire's from his book Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Now, as you might be aware, there are over 50 videos on Paulo Freire on my channel, and what we've done in those is I've read the entire book word by word, and we are almost done with the book. But what I realized was that sometimes it's important for us to have, a sort of compressed understanding of some of the main concepts that any scholar or philosopher mobilizes, but especially Paulo Freire. So today I'll talk about Conscientizacao, which is one of his major concepts, his understanding of praxis, and then the third one is dialogue, because these three concepts are interwoven through over the book and in actual practice that Freire promotes. So Conscientizacao, in English, it can be translated into coming to consciousness or conscience raising. Of course, I'm probably mutilating the pronunciation in Portuguese, but in Portuguese it is called Conscientizacao. And the simplest understanding of it is that it involves two things. One, for any group, teachers, students, activists, one is to understand the material conditions of the world in which they live. What are its dichotomies, right? How is that world divided? How does it work? What are the operative injustices? What are the hidden injustices and inequalities? So first part in Conscientizacao is to understand that. And two, which is more important, is to come together to change those things, to eliminate those injustices, to create a more just and equal society. Now, if you keep this simple understanding of Conscientizacao in mind, you can understand the whole book better, because that is exactly what the book is trying to teach us, right? Now, this also will not come passively. This has to be sought actively. We have to learn it. We have to teach it to each other in a community by coming together. So Conscientizacao doesn't just happen because time has passed, right? That's a very important insight to keep in mind. And it is deeply connected to Freire's explanation of praxis, right? Now, praxis for Freire, and of course he's coming from Marx. For Conscientizacao, he's coming actually from Fanon, right? But praxis is a combination of two things, reflection and action, right? So the idea is to develop a praxis, we must reflect on the world, we must think about it critically, we must try to understand it, we must try to understand our place in it, and then collectively develop a plan of social action, right? And so that would then create a praxis. A praxis will have action to change things, but reflection behind it. That is why as you read the book, you will realize that what he says is that, reflection without action, Freire calls it mere verbalism, right? And action without reflection, he calls it mere activism, right? An activism that is sufficient unto itself and doesn't accomplish anything in the world, right? So that is his understanding of praxis, which is crucial for us to understand as critical thinking teachers, but also as practitioners in the world, right? And the third concept, dialogue, is the one that is crucial to our understanding of critical pedagogy. And he introduces it and discusses it at length in chapter 3. And so, first of all, what he's saying is that instead of a top-down conversation, our interactions must be dialogic. They must be based in dialogue, because a dialogue presupposes a conversation or an exchange between two equals, right? Two equal constituencies, even two people, right? But a dialogue must have certain attributes, right? What are those? Love, humility, trust, hope, and critical thinking. So a dialogue must be guided by love. What kind of love? Freire teaches us a love that is amongst the equals, right? A love that is selfless, that is not driven by personal motive, but love of the other as equal, right? So keep that. It can't be what he calls the sadistic kind of love, where one person says, I love you, you must do this for me. No, it has to be a love that is directed at the other and then treats them as equal. Humility, of course, is to approach any situation in a way where we don't come across as all-knowing and having all the answers, but we enter a situation to learn from others whom we love. So any praxis, any action must, a dialogic contact with someone else must be driven by that kind of humility, right? And trust. Trust is where we trust each other, where people with whom we are working, we trust them to a point where we know they can solve their own problems. We trust them as fellow human beings and not impose any ideas from above where we think, oh, these people don't know what they ought to do, let us know. We trust the basic abilities of a group, a constituency, a person, and then build that trust through humility and love so that they trust us too. So a dialogic education or dialogic negotiation will need that kind of mutual trust. Hope is crucial. In any kind of revolutionary movement or revolutionary pedagogy, what we're trying to keep at bay is a sort of dark view of the world, a cynical view of the world. So a dialogical education, but a dialogical movement in the world must also hope for a better world, must also hope to create a better world. So hope is another constituent part of dialogue. And finally, critical thinking. A critical thinking that is informed by love, humility, trust, and hope. The kind of critical thinking that enables us to work with others in love and solidarity, to think the world critically, to understand how it functions, what are its dichotomies, how are different classes created in it, and then trying to change it. So, not to belabor the point, Conscientizacao, coming to consciousness, learning about the world, and trying to change it. Praxis, a combination of reflection and action. And finally, dialogue, which kind of has everything that Conscientizacao and Praxis has in it, but a dialogue in which we come together as equals and help each other and try to change the world through love, humility, trust, hope, and critical thinking. That would make our engagement with each other dialogic, and it will be a dialogue amongst the equals. So these are just some of the thoughts, about three concepts that Paulo Freire explains in the book, but also uses in the book. I hope this is useful to you. Let me know what you think, and as promised, soon I will try to finish the full discussion of the book. On a side note, and this is a request, I have now also launched an Urdu channel, which is for Urdu and Hindi audiences. I'll post the link to that in the description, and I would love your support in promoting the channel, but also come and join me there. Thank you so much. Take care of each other, be generous and kind, and I will now see you next time. Until then, peace and love.